Hello there, and welcome to the Kaizen podcast with Joseph Don. And today I have with me an industry leader in the real estate and general business industry. We are talking about a multi-dimensional business leader in the person of Mr. Ighodaloh right here. And just before I introduce him, I'm going to give you a little backstory. So the year was 2016. I'd started working at NMPC as an intern, and that was the year things were a bit difficult if you're in Nigeria. Somebody came into power, and everywhere cast for the country. So I was trying to explore. I needed other streams of income apart from what I was earning then. That was 5 years ago as an intern at NMPC. Right. So one day the company car was driving me to, because I used to work at the gas plant. Company car was driving me to the gas plant, and I heard this guy on radio. Like, I'm going to teach you. Do you know that Linda Ikeji makes also amount of money from blogging? Do you know I can make this from importation? Do you know I can do this from? Okay, this is interesting. And he said, I'm going to show you how to do it for free. I'm like, okay, this is a no-brainer. Why won't I go? Coincidentally, the venue, Voyage Ranch Hotel, was close to my house. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to go. I registered. I went to the event, and we really learned a lot, and that was where I met Mr. Ighodaloh for the first time. Yeah. Now, I saved his name as Ighodaloh back then, because the person that convened that show was Kalada Bright of Tatafo, Nigeria. Yeah. Right, so...
Who happens to be my in-law.
Wow, beautiful. Yeah. So, few years down the line, this is like 5 years later, right, I meet Mr. Ighodaloh again, and see his message on WhatsApp. I'm like, Ighodaloh. How? I know this guy from somewhere. I remember, that was when I started my journey back then. And after that seminar, I went to start making money online, but I made a mistake first. So here's what I did. So I took the information I gathered from the seminar, and then I wrote an ebook. I put together an ebook. I called it How to Make Money Online, right? And then I put up an advert on Facebook. I started pushing it, and somebody finally called me. He was going to buy my ebook. I pressed that 500 naira, and the guy told me to reduce the price. This is a 500 naira ebook. Why should I reduce the price? I'm like, okay, I'm getting something wrong here. Because I had not practiced what I learned from the seminar. I went ahead to start selling it. I could not make any sales. I literally made 0 sales. Right? So I learned that if you want to succeed at anything online or offline, don't rush to start teaching. Right? Learn it first, then make sure you practice what you are doing to actually get results. Then you can go ahead and teach it. Because I realized that if you just go ahead and start teaching what you have not practiced, you're going to hang somewhere. Right? Your students are going to ask you questions you won't be able to answer. You now say, I'm too busy, I'm occupied. That is why you're not occupied, you don't just know it.
True.
Right? So 5 years down the line, I've reconnected back with Mr. Ighodaloh. And today, he's the founder of Bamboo Real Estate, Bamboo Oil,
Bamboo Energy,
Bamboo
Construction.
Bamboo Construction. Wow. And today he's going to share with us his wealth of knowledge and experience in the business and sales world. Mr. Ighodaloh, how are you doing?
Thank you very much, Joseph Don. It's my pleasure to meet you after such a long time.
Thank you for having me here, honestly.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. So I know you, but for the sake of formalities, I'm going to ask, who is Mr. Ighodaloh?
My name is Ighodaloh, and I graduated from University of Port Harcourt, and Bamboo Real Estate and Construction Limited is actually one of the companies that I run, and it's been about 3 years now. And it's been quite an interesting one. So I'm an entrepreneur. I like to consider myself as a creative entrepreneur, and I'm someone who is always seeking for opportunities, to do business better, right? And I am someone who is focused on the African continent as a business. I'm someone who believes that Africa is the next frontier. Africa is the next investment or business destination. And that is why, even if you look at my company, if you look at the brand, you will realize that it's actually branded towards, or getting branded in a way that it's actually Afrocentric. And that is why, that is basically who I am.
Beautiful. So how did this whole journey, entrepreneurship, how did it start for you? Were you always an entrepreneur, or did you work
Well, I was discussing with a friend a while ago, and we talked about this, and he said he realized that some people are accidental entrepreneurs.
Okay.
And when he said that, immediately I took my mind back, and I quickly told him, I said, no, that I think, yes, a lot of people could be accidental entrepreneurs, but I personally, I am someone who have always wanted to be an entrepreneur since I became conscious of who I am, right? It has always been something that I've always wanted to be, an entrepreneur. I've never had any other, option to be something else, to work, or to maybe to be a civil servant, or to be in any other sector, but to be an entrepreneur, to work for myself. And that has always been it for me. As far back as I can remember, from the days when I was in secondary school, I have always admired the idea. I may not have known what the word entrepreneurship is at the time,
Yeah.
but I've always known that I want to work for myself, and that has always been it. I've always known that I was going to be an entrepreneur. Yes.
So have you started in businesses? How's your business journey been? Did you feel at any business at some point? What was it like?
Yes. I started my entrepreneurship journey, I think, when I was in secondary school. I started out in sales.
Okay.
I started out in sales. I had a sister who would make this who made these food products. She makes plantain flour, bean flour, yam flour, for people who are dieting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And one of those days, I could remember one of those days I got back from school. I was in secondary school at the time, Federal Government College, Port Harcourt. And I got back one day, and walked into where she was using as her factory, right? And I walked in, and I saw these heaps of product that she had made, all lying, fallow there. And I walked up to her and I asked, why do you have all of these products? Why all of these products here? Why are they not being sold? Why not? And she said that she's having issues with sales and stuff, that the people that usually would come to help her sell these things, they are no longer coming as much. And I'm like, okay, if I should sell this stuff for you, how much am I going to get at the end of the day? She said, then if you do, you can get 50%. And I'm like, wow, okay.
That's you.
This is good. I said, okay. So I went back, I went into the house, took out my school uniforms, emptied my backpack.
Yeah.
That was my school backpack. Emptied it, came back, loaded some of those products into my bag, and that was it. I started moving. I would trek from Romokuta all the way to my 3.
Wow.
Wimpy, my 3, moving from shop to shop, talking to people and about the product and all of that. That was how I actually started. And before I knew, it became some sort of an addiction for me. Every day when I come back from school, I can't wait for school to close. And I'm rushing back home to start the journey again. And I'm moving from place to place. That's how it really started. And it's been quite an interesting one. Yes, I have failed in a couple of businesses, and since then, I've actually started a couple of other businesses. I have run a music recording studio. I have run a restaurant. I have had a barbing salon.
Wow.
I've had an event management company. I've worked with a couple of big events. I've worked with Red Media, that's the Future Award guys. I've worked with Odudu Awards.
Wow.
And a couple of other events, all around Port Harcourt and all of that. And of course, as I was on campus, I was an ISECA. So that also gave me a lot of exposure into a whole lot of activities, especially in the event industry. And that's sort of, in a way, shaped my entrepreneurship mindset, right? And I remember very well that all of these businesses that I had mentioned at some point all failed. And that also gave me an idea on how not to run a business. So yes, I have failed in business.
Do you think failure is a bad thing?
No, failure is the best teacher, really, when it comes to business. I think failure is a great teacher when it comes to business. Because when you fail at a business, or at a certain business, right, you get to learn stuff and gain experience that you may never have gotten if you didn't fail at that business. Of course, you get to see the best ways not to do stuff.
True.
You get to realize how to re-strategize and do your business better, or whatever business you may be doing in future. Of course, one of the very first things I learned while I failed in my business was the area of accounting. of accountability, right? You know, as a young person, you are just excited about doing business. I remember when I started my restaurants, everybody on campus, I was quite a popular guy on campus, so everybody knew me as the guy who owned the restaurant. So every of my friends sees me, I'm like, oh boy, now you get a restaurant, oh boy, I'm chop la. I say, ah, you chop one plate, you chop one plate, you know? And that was how the business was running down. And I didn't even realize it. I was just excited that I had a business. And I didn't realize that these guys that I was giving free plates of food were actually running down my business. And I was excited about it. It got to a point where I realized I could no longer, you know, push the business. I could no longer manage the business. And yes, I remember during that time, I ran to one of my mentors and I told him about my business failing. And he asked, okay, so what do you want to do? I said, oh, I want to do another business. He said, okay, no problem. I think that's fine. He said, okay, go and bring your record book. Let's look at it. Let's look at the numbers. I was like, record what? He said, go and bring the record now, your accounting book and all of that. I said, okay. He said, don't tell me. He now said something. He said, don't tell me you don't have a record. He knew I didn't have a record. So I said, okay, I was going to bring it. He said, okay, bring it. When you bring it, we'll talk. I went home. I never went back to him because I had nothing to go back to. I had nothing to bring to him. And that was one of the things that it also informed me in later years. I actually run an accounting company, Mortgage Financial Services, with my partner. Oh, nice. And that was actually what informed that business, because I realized that was a very integral part of, you know, business that a lot of young people fail to realize, where we don't keep proper records, proper accounting that actually helps us to make informed decisions as we grow our business. And I think that is something that a lot of people should also consider.
True. So if you're a small business owner watching this, what is saying that you should learn how to track your numbers.
Very important. Everything is in the numbers, really. Yes, very important.
So, like, tell us about Bamboo, the brand. How did it start?
Bamboo Real Estate and Construction actually started, I would say, while I was on campus. I remember while I was on campus. And like I mentioned earlier, I was quite a popular guy. I used to do a lot of SCG stuff. I used to do a lot of events. You know, I remember as a PRO to the Director of Socials in the University of Port Harcourt, I was mostly responsible for a lot of events that was organized by the SCG. And I remember being responsible for the guys that brought in BlackBerry on campus. I was one of the people that pioneered, you know, the MTN campus storm and all of that. You know, I did a lot of that. And I organized what we call the first outdoor rap battle in the University of Port Harcourt, which was a big event on campus at the time. And all of this were stuff that I was doing, but there was little or nothing to show for it, right? And so this was one of those times where I was in, you know, my feelings, and I felt that there's a need for me to do more, right? Because I knew I had the entrepreneurship juice flowing in my veins and stuff. So I thought about it, and I went back to my quiet place and I talked to God about it, and I said, see, all of these dreams to change the world, to impact the globe and all of that, I didn't get them myself. You actually put them in me, right? So help me, show me what I need to do to be better, to do something bigger and stuff. And that was when I got the whole concept to go register Bamboo Energy Limited. It was actually the oil and gas thing at the beginning, because living in the Niger Delta, we are exposed to oil and gas and the oil and gas industry and all of that. Like you said earlier, you had to intern with NNPC. Yeah. You know, that gave me an idea that, okay, if anybody around here, what's the easiest thing that one could do around here that would actually be big and blow up quickly? Yeah. Was the oil and gas. So I remember at the time, it was Bamboo Energy. I didn't have the funds, but I still think about it till today. I don't know how those funds came. I got the idea, the inspiration. I knew it was God inspired. And I took that information and I went to register with the corporate affairs. The instruction was actually to register as a limited liability company. At the time, what was prevalent amongst young people was to register a business name. Yeah. Even those, I would say, even at the time I registered this company, that was around 2006. I really don't think there were a lot of young people around me who even knew what registering a business was at the time. And I remember telling my friends, and they all acted like, what's that? Why would you register a limited liability company? Oil and gas, for that matter. So you want to tell us now, say you now, you go get oil company. My friend, go see that. But we registered that company, and I didn't just register the company. I went as far as, doing the entire branding, doing all of this stuff. And I was on campus at the time. I was still in school at the time. And that was where it all started. And, it's been a lot of awesome, experiences from there.
Oh, beautiful. So you started Bamboo Energy first.
Yes.
You were like a little into the oil and gas.
Funny thing, I think there's a backstory behind that, right? I had no idea about how the oil and gas industry ran, right? Now, I had registered that company, and that was all I knew. Just to register the company. I didn't even know what to do with the business. I didn't know what to do with the company. I just registered the company. And, in fact, that was at the time I had started subscribing for Forbes Africa magazine.
Okay.
So when I read Forbes Africa magazine and I see stories of great African businesses and all of that, that sort of inspired and spurred something in me. And I think that's what was inspired or spurred was the entrepreneurship, spirit that was already inside of me, right?
Yeah.
And, when I eventually registered that company, I didn't know what to do with it. So I just had it. I was excited about registering a company, having printed complimentary cards, printed invoices, all I just put on my company stuff at the time was general contract, oil and gas, procurement, service, haulage, and I didn't even know what all of that was. I just copied it from somewhere, and my lawyer at the time just helped me copy it somewhere, and I just put it in the memos and stuff. So I registered that company. It took another almost 4 years before I actually got introduced into the oil and gas sector. And that was after I had gone out of school and I was doing my stuff. And then I met a friend who was into petroleum product distribution. Mm-hmm. He was doing the whole local refined stuff, right? And one of those days I met him and I said, I would love to, help you. How do you do that? I would love to support this business and help you do stuff, and maybe as a marketer. So he said, okay, I'll need a marketer. We came in as a marketer and stuff, right? And I started marketing for him. And then one of those days, we were just driving and he was in the filling station and he stopped to buy fuel. So his record book was beside and I looked at it and I was flipping through. And I realized that this guy was making a whole lot of money and giving me very little. I was like, wow, this guy is making so much money. As he saw me with the book, he dragged it and I was like, okay, guy, how far? Let's renegotiate it. The guy said he's not negotiating, that that I should continue with what I was doing. I was like, oh no, I'm not comfortable with it. I think I really want to negotiate. He said no, that he would not want to renegotiate with me. I said, okay, if that's fine. So I went to meet his colleagues who have become accustomed to at the time. And they were so excited to have me because they told me that they knew that most of what my friend was doing, the jobs he was doing, were actually coming from me. I was like, okay, let's do this. I'm interested. And that was how business started for me. We did a 50-50 partnership. So I bring the jobs, they do the supplies, and we share the profit 50-50. And then at some point, I realized that I could do this on my own. I've come to understand how the business works and all of that. So I started going out on my own. And that's where the backstory of all of this happened, right? First experience. First time, I had gone to meet a couple of persons, and then there was the bank I had gone to meet to make my first supply. I had gone to the bank the first time, they rejected me. They said no, they already had people. I went back the second time, they said no, they already had people. The third time, the guy was like, this guy, you have been too persistent, young man. We said we already have people, we don't want you. I think the fourth or fifth time, I went back there. And I didn't give up. I kept going there because somehow I felt I'll be able to break into that organization. And I remember going there, I think the fourth or fifth time, and the guy called me, he took me to the corner. He said, see, young man, I like your persistence, but we cannot give you this job because we work with companies. And you are just an individual, you're not a company. And I said, no, I'm a company, I represent the company. I brought out my complimentary card, he looked at it. He said, this company registered. I said, look at it now, with the ROC number boldly written on it. A registered company, a limited liability company. He said, wow, okay, it's not just about them, having to work with a company. They also try to do things professionally because they will need receipts and invoice. And they will not take computer printed receipts. I said, no, I have invoice, I have receipts. They said, no, this is not computer printed. I said, yes, I have it. She said, okay, if you do, then go get it. If you are being truthful, they believed I didn't have it. They said, if you are being truthful, then come, we'll give you the job. I said, okay. I ran back home. And at the time, I used to have this small office desk at home. And then I would, every now and then, I would just go to the receipt and write me a receipt. I just come up with an imaginary company name, write the receipt, say 50 billion to so and so my company.
One checkbook I had.
Yeah, I did a lot with checkbooks. Yeah. So I ran back home and I went to pick up the checkbook, the invoice that I had gathered dust over the years. I cleaned it up and I ran back to the bank. And the guy looked at it and said, "This is your company?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Come upstairs, come with me." He took me to the upstairs to meet the manager. And he told the woman, talk to the woman. The woman said, "Young man, see that you own this company?" I said, "Yes, okay. And your price is way cheaper than the people who supply." I said, "Okay, can you give me a large volume to supply?" I was like, "Wow." I said, "Let me go." I ran quickly, met my guys, told them, "See, I have the supply me. I'll pay you," because I knew how much they were buying at the time. So I said, I'll pay you this amount, then supply me, right? And they did. That was how I made my first money, right? From my first, that was where Bamboo Energy made its first money. And that actually did not stop. It was from there we started making progress. We started expanding around Port Harcourt. People got to know me as Bamboo Energy at the time. Till today, people still confused. People still call me Bamboo Energy because that was actually the beginning of all of this. And here we are. Over the years, metamorphosed into, branched out into the real estate and construction arm. And it's a group of companies. So we have Bamboo Real Estate, Bamboo Construction, Bamboo Energy, Agriculture, Bamboo Capital, which hopefully in the near future will also branch out into Bamboo Media, music and stuff.
Beautiful. Do you think that that experience of you going to get your sister's stuff and go knocking on shops, getting rejected over and over again, finally getting people who like, do you think it shaped the salesperson you are today?
Well, I would say that was what shaped everything that was the foundation of everything that I am today. Because that was the experience that actually made me fall in love with sales. You know, I'm in love with sales. I love sales. I love to sell. You know, and I remember during that period, one particular experience, I walked into a supermarket. And while I walked in the supermarket, I was a young kid. I was really small at the time, and I had this baby face, which people still say I still do till today if I take off all of this, you know. So I walked into a supermarket, and I met this man. And it was as if he was having a quarrel with a lady inside. So I stumbled into them, and I said, the man, you know, just like looked at me and said, "What do you want?" I said, "Good afternoon." And he retorted. He was like, "What do you want? What do you want? What do you like?" Aggressively. I said, I started stuttering. I was like, "Excuse me, sir. Please, sir. I came trying to market it." He said, No, we don't want. Please leave this place. As he said, "Leave this place," I was turning my back to go. The other lady peeped out. I said, "Young man, come. What do you have?" I said, "I have." He says, "Okay, how much do you sell?" As I was talking to the man, said, "I told you to leave this place." I turned back to leave. The lady said, "You come back." I came back. The man said, "I will beat you, leave this place." The lady said, "Come back." I turned back. And the lady said, okay, just bring five. As I was bringing the five, the man said, "I will beat you. Leave." I quickly dropped it and I ran out. And I told her I'll be back to come collect the money. You know, I left that day. And, you know, I was young, but I thought about that experience. I remember that experience still there, you know, enshrined in my head. And I thought about it, and I was like, this was an opportunity that I had, an experience that I had, and someone is saying right in front of me, saying no, and another person is saying yes. In the same scenario, it's not something someone had told me yes in this shop, and I went to the next shop. In the same place, someone said yes, and another person said no. And that, you know, sort of rewired my mind and gave me an insight about marketing and about sales, right? Because I understand the difference between sales and marketing. Basically, sales is actually converting your clients to money, while marketing is actually all of the things that you do, you know, to actually get them in and to actually make a sale. You know, and, you know, I think about that experience a lot, and I realized that, okay, it's actually possible to actually make a sale, even to someone who may seem like they are not interested in your product. And just a little persuasion, just a little, you know, persistence and, you know, acting, you know, a little acting, a little showmanship. Because in sales, there's some sort of showmanship, right? a little showmanship, you could actually make a sale and go home and take care of your family.
Beautiful, beautiful stuff. So, how did you branch out into the real estate space, and how did you sell your first set of real estate?
Well, real estate. It happened that a couple of years ago, I was at a point in my life where I had lost money in my energy company, my oil and gas company, and I was actually at I would say, a crossroad. I was going to decide whether to continue to stay in Port Harcourt or to move to Lagos. I actually wanted to move to Lagos. I talked to a couple of my friends in Lagos, and they were like, young man, we know you. You know, you can do a lot of stuff. We want you to come to Lagos. Come join us and make things happen. I'm like, okay, I think I will have to leave for Lagos and stuff. But while I was on it, while I was in that mind frame, in that space, I thought about it, and I prayed one of those days, and I said, and I asked God to actually direct me, because I'm a spiritual person. As much as I can, I always seek for God's direction in everything that I do. There's something quite common that I say. I say it a lot. I say, I think at the age where I am, I can't just venture into anything. I must kind of seek some spiritual guidance, and I think that is something a lot of us need to always do.
Yeah, true.
We can't just venture. We ought to seek some sort of spiritual guidance in whatever it is that we set out to do, because I believe the spiritual rules the physical, and so I sought that spiritual guidance from God. And I remember that day I was sitting. It was quite early in the morning. Someone just walked up to knocked on. I had a knock on my door, and the person walked in, and this was someone that I had met from way back, a surveyor I had met from way back, and he said, that this man, he came with another man who looked strange, and said, this guy wants to sell so properties, hundreds of plots, hundreds of hectares of land, and he said this guy wants to sell this, and he doesn't know who else he would have gone to. He remembered me from way back. I used to talk a lot of, say I was going to be a billionaire when I leave school and all of that. So he thought about it. He doesn't know any other billionaire other than me. He thought in his head that I should have hammered by now. So somehow he was able to trace my house by asking questions and all of that. He came and he said, look at it. When I looked at it, I looked at the plan, and I said, something weird, something just came on me, And I said, I'll buy it. I wasn't thinking real estate at the time. I just wanted to leave Port Harcourt. I just wanted to go, right? And I just said, I'll buy it. And that was it. He said, okay, are you sure? The guy was looking at me and looking at my almost scanty apartment. No form of electronics, not even form of furniture. And this guy is like, you want to buy this? I said, I'll buy it. And that boldness came on me, and I said, it took us a while. After that period of time, I actually called a couple of my friends together and said, see, this is what I'm doing. I would want you guys to invest, and so that I can gather these monies and begin this business. And fortunately for me, I was lucky enough. A couple of my friends believed in me. Many years later, I had come to interview a couple of them, and I've asked them, why did you believe in me at the time, and gave me all of the money? And they said, that you'll be very consistent. And I think that's where consistency comes in. In whatever it is that we do, we are consistent about our message, right? I've always been very consistent about entrepreneurship. While I was back on campus, I used to go from class to class, just talking to students about entrepreneurship, about leadership, about personal development. So a lot of people knew me as that guy who was always about entrepreneurship. So they always believed in me. They knew I was going to get it. I was going to make good if I have the opportunity. And that is why they actually believed in and put in their funds at the time. And that was how Bamboo Real Estate was born. So it's been from one journey, from one experience to the other. From just that particular location, we have about 6 locations in Port Harcourt. And we've grown into Lagos, Abuja, to the eastern parts of the country as well. And we also have, if you look there, you'll see one of our flags there, our CAC registration in Kenya, working on that of Ghana. And Bamboo is actually an African company, and so we hope to spread across Africa. And our ultimate goal is to actually get a piece or a slice of the diaspora market.
All right, so it's been awesome really having this conversation.
Thank you very much.
Now, you emphasize the fact that you used to do a lot of entrepreneurship stuff in school, right? So I want to ask, our school system, especially in Nigeria today, does it support entrepreneurs?
I would say no. I would say officially no.
Okay.
But yes, unofficially, of course, we understand how this our system, our Nigerian system works, right? The school which I attended, the University of Port Harcourt, is usually known. They usually call it School of Stress. Uniport somewhat have a way of, or our tertiary institutions have some way of frustrating you, or frustrating a student, and it brings out the entrepreneur in you.
True.
It sort of just brings out the entrepreneurship in you. You really don't need to go to any class to study entrepreneurship. Somehow, the struggle, of course, when you talk about Aluta, we say the struggle continues. Everything is just about the struggle. We struggle we struggle over everything. You struggle to go to class, you struggle to get a seat, you struggle to write exams, you struggle to see your results, struggle to stop. Everything is all about. And I think all of that sort of brings out that entrepreneurship, entrepreneurship ingenuity in you, that spirit, and that is the only way by which I think our entrepreneurship prowess can actually be tested, to actually put us in a place to actually know if we truly can be entrepreneurs. But officially, no, I don't think our tertiary institution supports.
And we have like a general course entrepreneurship that is now kind of compulsory for everybody. But that course is not even practical.
That was my first A course I got in University of Port Harcourt.
I swear that's the only A course I got.
That was the first. I think the first and maybe one amongst other two, other three.
I was having A, B's. I never had an A.
Yes.
The only A I had was in entrepreneurship.
Yes.
But the problem for me is it wasn't practical enough.
No, it isn't really practical. And that is why the University of Port Harcourt had just gotten a new VC in the person of Professor Wunari George. I was discussing with him in this line a couple of weeks ago, before the days leading to him becoming the current VC. And we talked about this. And he said when he eventually becomes, I pray he keeps to his words. He said when he eventually becomes the Vice Chancellor of Port Harcourt, he would love to bring in entrepreneurs and technocrats, across the city, across the country, who would actually come and see how we can develop a workable curriculum for young people, for students, to actually learn and become true entrepreneurs, learning from entrepreneurs who are already out there in the field. And I think that is something that the university, the education board, across the country should actually begin to look into.
Yeah, and what other courses do you think we should start studying in universities to develop better business people?
When they talk about the Igbo apprenticeship system,
yeah.
I am very much in touch with the Igbo community, right from when I was a lot younger. I stayed in Onitsha. I did business in Onitsha. I stayed with Onitsha business people for many years.
So your history is in the other shop.
Yes. In fact, I used to spend most of my Christmas holidays in Anambra State. So Anambra is like a second home to me. Onitsha is like a second home to me. So I understand the Igbo apprenticeship system. You will hardly find any apprentice in Igbo land who stayed under a master and did not come out successful.
True.
You will hardly find any, except those ones who were not really serious. And I think that's very instructive, right? And that also tells us that if the university system can actually inculcate such an idea into the educational sector, that we're going to get a lot more results. In the sense that we have business people, technocrats, that students, we have a mentorship program that students who want to become entrepreneurs can actually go while they are studying a 4, 5 years, 6 years course in school, can actually study and work under a successful entrepreneur or a successful business person. And in that 4, 5 years while they're in school, they dedicate some time of their study to actually be mentored and being taught by an already established entrepreneur. They will come out to be better business people.
Sure.
Other thing that I think sales. The University of Port Harcourt, for example, they have several businesses. I know they have a farm. I know they have a water bottling company. I know they make bread at the time and all of that. Why can't they get students who want to better understand sales to actually work in these organizations and actually help them distribute these products beyond the university campus and the community, university community? Expand this business beyond here and actually get them to help them to get practical sales and business knowledge. And I think that is something that is worth looking into. The other thing that I also think that we also need to also learn is we also begin to teach our young people is business structure and structuring, right? And because I understand that if you, for example, if you watch the average American movie and you see a young person who wants to start a business, the first thing you will hear is they are looking for partners.
True.
But here, when someone wants to start a business, what are they looking for? A loan. Emeka, why you never start that business we talked about last week? Nah, they find loan. No. We're always looking for loan. And there's a saying that it's better to have 1% or 10% of 100 billion than to have 100% of 1 million.
True.
So, and when you have partners, you have people who work with you. They all have their own wealth of knowledge and experience.
True.
They are bringing a wealth of knowledge and experience into what we do, into what you do, right? Unlike when you are just the only person. They say 2 good heads are better than 1.
Yeah, sure.
So there's a need for us to actually look into our educational system and restructure and reorganize it and bring a lot more interesting ideas into the system. For example, where we teach our children or those who want to go into business structure, and how
the things that really matter.
That really matter, right? For example, how many of us know how to take our business public?
Do we even know the meaning of IPO first of all? Do you know, what it means to use
but if you look at the Western world, these are stuff that the average person knows.
Some of them are building businesses to sell. Like
you would see that. You would see an average American family. They want to move into a new house. They buy a land, build a house by themselves. You see them come out and they are painting themselves. You see a person wants to start a business. He takes his laptop, create his website, create a business plan. How many of us knows how to create business plans? How many of us are tech savvy? And these are skills that we need to actually be able to grow our business.
True.
But so these are some of those things that we need to begin to teach young people, right? If I had known all of this while I was on campus, I'm sure most of the businesses, my business that failed, wouldn't have failed. I'm sure if as someone who has always been interested in business, I've been taught bookkeeping and accounting from the onset, I'm sure I wouldn't have made the mistakes I made. So these are the 3 things that I think are very important.
Beautiful. This conversation has been like very, very insightful.
Thank you very much, sir.
I must thank you for giving me your time and audience.
Thank you so much.
And I'm going to ask you one final question before we go. What word do you have for people who are just there, they are yet to start a business, but they really want to do something as part of entrepreneurship? What advice do you have for them before we go?
Well, for those who really want to, who really feel that calling and who really feel that that pull towards entrepreneurship, I would say get a lot of knowledge, get a lot of information, be well informed, get a lot of education. Don't just stumble into entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship is hard, believe me.
True.
There are sleepless nights.
There
are a lot of untold truths. I may sit down here and I'm talking about entrepreneurship. It's sounding interesting, my brother. Entrepreneurship is
Prepare your mind.
Entrepreneurship will drag you to becoming suicidal. Entrepreneurship will change. You're a calm person. You no longer have to be calm being an entrepreneur. So I would want to say get a lot of knowledge, get a lot of education before you embark on this journey, because it's really not an easy journey. Get a lot of knowledge and be very well informed about whatever sector or industry that you want to go into. Be very well informed about it.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. It's been awesome having you on the show.
Thank you.
I trust you guys got a lot of value too. So if you have any questions,
Thank you for having me.
if you have any comments, just leave it on the comment section and we will sure attend to it. It's till next time on the Kaizen podcast. See you next time. Take care of yourself.
Ciao.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, boss.
Thank you.
All right.